The week I spent alone at home started as an opportunity to enjoy some peace and quiet, but quickly turned into a distressing experience that changed my perspective on solitude. My parents, usually homebodies, received a last-minute invitation for a trip courtesy of a family friend. As they prepared to leave, I found myself in our secluded house on the outskirts of the small town of Cedar Creek in southern Oregon. Our residence was nestled on wooded grounds, surrounded by dense pine forest. The first night was quiet. I took the opportunity to relax on the back deck, gazing at the stars twinkling in the night sky. But as the days passed, a growing sense of unease began to settle in. On Wednesday night, while I was outside, I heard a faint voice coming from the edge of the forest. It was so subtle that I almost ignored it, but a strange feeling made me stop. "Hey, over here," called the voice. I turned but saw no one among the shadows of the trees. The next day, the same voice echoed again, while I was on the deck, smoking and listening to soft music. "We need help," said the voice more clearly this time. A shiver ran down my spine. It didn't sound like a prank, but something genuine. I turned off the music and stood silently, trying to pinpoint the source of the voice. "Who's there?" I asked, nervously. There was a pause before a reply came. "We're stuck in the forest. Please come help us." The idea of someone needing help in the middle of the forest troubled me. Yet something didn't seem right. Why would someone be so far into the woods at that time of night? I decided to investigate. I descended the steps of the deck and headed towards the edge of the forest. The voice continued to call as I slowly advanced among the trees. "I'm coming." "Where are you?" I asked, my throat tightening. The voice replied, "Closer now." "Right in front of you, I see you." A sense of distrust mixed with my growing fear. I couldn't see anyone, just dense shadows. "Are you alone or with someone?" I asked, trying to stay calm. This time there was no response. I stood still for a moment, fighting the urge to run back home. I decided to retreat, but before I could fully turn away from the forest, I heard a noise behind me. A low, sinister laugh cut through the night silence. I spun around quickly but saw nothing except the quiet trees. The rest of the night was unsettling. I stayed indoors, locking all doors and windows. I occasionally heard the voice calling again, but it sounded more distant now, as if it were moving around the house. The torment continued the next night. While in the living room, I heard tapping on the window. I rushed to see who was there, but there was no one in sight. Then, the voice whispered from outside, "I see you." Fear turned into paranoia. The situation escalated on Friday night. As I tried to sleep, I heard footsteps on the roof. My heart raced as I realized someone was walking around the house, as if watching my every move. I decided to call the police, but when I picked up the phone, I realized the line was dead. Panic set in. I was completely isolated, at the mercy of whoever was out there. On Saturday morning, as the sun began to rise, I gathered my courage and ventured out to investigate. I searched around the house, looking for any signs of intruders or clues about the source of the voice. That's when I stumbled upon something strange near the forest's edge. Among the bushes, I found an abandoned backpack containing canned food, dirty clothes, and a notebook with jumbled notes. The notes were written in shaky, disorderly letters, as if from a disturbed mind. Something about hiding, waiting. I couldn't fully understand, but one thing was clear. Someone had been watching my house for days. I returned home with a heavy heart. Whoever was out there had been observing my every move. I decided not to confront them directly. Instead, I waited in silence, praying for my parents to return soon. When I finally heard the sound of a car approaching on Sunday afternoon, a sigh of relief escaped my lips. I ran outside and saw my parents arriving, their faces radiant from the trip. I told them about the strange events of the week, showing them the backpack and the notes I had found. They were shocked and immediately called the police. Later, The officers conducted a thorough search of the area but found no one. The neighbors also reported nothing out of the ordinary. Since then, I've never been comfortable at home when my parents aren't around. The experience left me with emotional scars that aren't easily erased. The feeling of being watched, at the mercy of unseen forces, has never left me since that dark week. The night was warm and muggy when I found myself alone in our 2-story house. My sister, typically absent due to her relationship, was once again out with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, I sought distraction on the TV screen, lost in a suspense movie that, in hindsight, might not have been the best choice for a solitary evening. My part of the house, upstairs, was spacious and open plan, blending the living room, dining area, and kitchen into one continuous space. The strategically placed sofa in the middle made it inevitable that, while watching the movie, my gaze often turned to the emptiness behind me, where shadows danced in response to the TV light. By the end of the movie, I felt uneasy and somewhat paranoid. It was as if the house's silence amplified the sense of isolation. I took a quick shower, brushed my teeth, and finally turned off the lights, hoping to immerse myself in the comforting refuge of sleep. However, my nighttime peace was abruptly interrupted a few hours later when I woke up suddenly, unsure of why. I lay still, trying to discern what might have stirred my slumbering awareness. That's when I realized a distant voice echoing from downstairs. The voice, strangely familiar, seemed to be my sister's. I could have picked it out among 1,000 voices. Why was she here, alone at this hour of the night? Confusion mingled with sleep as I dragged myself out of bed and descended the stairs. In the dark hallway, I clearly heard my name being called. "Hey, are you there?" The voice was unmistakable, but there was something off in its tone. It sounded desperate, anxious. Still half asleep, I turned on the hallway lights and approached the living room. The voice continued to beckon, as if trying to guide me towards something. I followed the voice, each step taking me further from the safety of my room. Reaching the kitchen, where the voice seemed clearer, I realized that something was amiss. The dim light beginning to illuminate the area revealed an unexpected sight. There was no one there. Neither my sister nor her boyfriend. A shiver ran down my spine as I realized I was alone, confronting the emptiness and silence of the house. "Sister?" I called out, my voice weak and uncertain. That's when a dull thud echoed from her room as if something had fallen. My hesitant and fearful steps led me back to the hallway and up the stairs, yearning to return to the sanctuary of my bed. Back in my room, I grabbed my phone and tried calling my sister, but she didn't answer. The text message sent was enough to calm me, but the sense of unease persisted. The next morning, an explanation came swiftly in the form of a text message from my sister, confirming she was with her boyfriend the previous night. The lingering doubt in my mind compelled me to venture downstairs again. Investigating her room, I found nothing out of place. There was no sign of a fallen object as the noise had suggested. The mystery deepened as I realized the house was empty, with no one but me. The following days unfolded in a haze of discomfort and paranoia. Every sound became a signal, every shadow a potential danger. I found myself glancing over my shoulder more frequently than before, always anticipating another inexplicable manifestation. I always wanted to believe it was just some kind of hallucination, even though I had never experienced anything like it before, because the alternative of what could have happened is too disturbing for me. It was a quiet summer night, and I was focused on my online studies when I heard a knock on the door. It was a familiar scenario, living on the top floor where maintenance visits were frequent due to past storm damage. Upon opening the door, I was met with an unfamiliar man, claiming to be there to inspect for damages. His presence, though unexpected, didn't immediately set off alarm bells. I explained the previous issues with the apartment, which seemed to validate his visit. However, as he ventured further into my personal space, an uneasy feeling began to settle in. I led the man to my room, showing him the visible storm damage. He seemed overly interested, taking photos and casting lingering glances in my direction. I called my mother, unconsciously seeking comfort in the phone call. As he lingered in the room, his attention divided between me and his work. It was when I noticed the intense stare he directed at me as I sat on the bed in a casual nightgown. His inappropriate comments and intrusive attempts to photograph me shook my confidence. Discomfort grew as he encroached upon my privacy, disregarding my desire to limit his presence in my personal space. Temporary relief came when I finally escorted him to the door, fervently wishing for his departure. Yet, his final requests for physical gestures crossed the boundaries of respect. Just before leaving, he asked if he could kiss me. Embarrassed, I declined. Then he asked if he could at least hug me. I was utterly uncomfortable and ended up accepting an unwanted embrace to avoid an even more disturbing situation. He hugged me for far too long, and soon after, left the apartment without saying anything. After locking the door behind him, my body trembled with the reality of what had just occurred. I called a friend, sharing the chilling details of the visit, seeking solace amidst the confusion. Each word I uttered reunited the sense of vulnerability I had experienced in my own home. The night dragged on slowly. My mother, upon learning of the situation, reacted with justified anger and determination. The confrontation with the building manager the next day revealed a disturbing reality. He claimed to have no knowledge of any inspection that day and dismissed the entire situation, refusing to investigate and asking me to handle the problem on my own. As time passed, the emotional wounds remained fresh. The sense of security I once felt in my own home completely dissipated. Months went by, but the emotional scars remained raw. The feeling of insecurity within my own home persisted, fueled by the silence and impunity that surrounded the incident. The confidence I once had in my autonomy was replaced by constant fear of another privacy invasion. Thank you for watching until here. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. See you soon.